So let's dive into Texas A&M season. The
If we have to.
Screaming Aggies.
Right?
Yes, just like a little girl.
Practice. Maybe you'll sound like an older girl by the time season's here.
Or that. Thanks, B. So they open up with UT San Antonio. Then they take on Utah State. And then this is a game that they opened up with last year. They take on Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Then they have to play Auburn. Then they play Mississippi State. Then they take on Florida at home. Then they have to go to Arkansas and take on the Fighting Pittmans. Ooh, my gosh, man. 3 straight road games. Listen to this. Arkansas, LSU, and the even one at Missouri. Ooh. And then, even if you don't think that that's bad, then you come back home, yay, but you have to host South Carolina. Whew, what a tough schedule. Then you take on Samford, and then you finish the season with Texas at Texas. Maybe you'll have some revenge, but my gut tells me you're going to be beat up completely. So before we really start diving into these games, let's let the chicken go over some of their depth, and let's see how good A&M's talent looks like.
It's A&M, right? So Marcel Reed is going to be under center for you at quarterback. He had a pretty decent year last year, 10 games that he played in, threw for 1,800 yards, 15 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, ran the ball for 622 yards and 7 additional touchdowns. So a solid returner there at quarterback. Once you get past Marcel Reed, your number 2 guy is Jacob Zeno. He's not an unproductive quarterback. I think he's a solid number 2 for A&M, but he's not challenging for your starter role, I don't believe. And then back behind him is Miles O'Neill right now, a true freshman. Look for some things to happen there, hopefully with Marcel Reed being able to stay healthy all year. My concern is if he can't, what starts to happen. We talked about the offense for Alabama starting to click. If Marcel Reed can't stay healthy for the Aggies, their offense could start seeing some problems. The running back room, you've got Le'Veon Moss there as your current starter, platooning with Amari Daniels. Right now, Daniels is a little bit questionable. He didn't play in the spring game. He's trying to get over some injuries there. But he played in all 12 games last year, 138 rushes for 652 yards. So decent stats, right? But nothing really to jump up and scream about. Moss played in 9 games and ran the ball for 765 yards and 10 touchdowns. So he's really your top guy, but they'll be platooning as long as Daniels is healthy. And then you've got Reuben Owens. Reuben Owens is a 5-star sophomore. Only played in 2 games last year, 66 yards. So again, there's just not a whole lot of meat yet. Now, is that because, and as I said, 9 games for Moss, 12 games for Daniels last year, Owens only played in 2. Is that because we haven't seen enough of these guys yet to really comment on how deep that room might be? Possibly. At the wide receiver room, not a lot of difference there. Their starters are currently ranked as a B. Their depth at wide receiver is ranked at a B-.
Yeah.
Casey Concepcion transfers in from NC State. He had 88 targets, 53 receptions for 460 yards and 6 touchdowns. So nothing really jumping out at you there. He's a slot guy, right? 5'11", slot receiver. Terry Busey, a 5-star coming out of high school. He played in 12 games last year, caught 16 passes for 208 yards. Go ahead.
Is he kin to Gary?
I don't know. I hope not.
Okay. I was just curious.
I hope. Things get weird if you're from that side of the Busey tree. Mario Carver had 368 yards last year through the air. He's a transfer in from Mississippi State, which, hey, you're moving up, Mario. Congrats.
Yeah.
You're not at Mississippi State anymore. But just, again, some unproven talent there at the wide receiver position.
Well, hey, just real quick about the wide receivers. Remember, sorry to interrupt you, but they They lost their number one wide receiver last year, Noah Thomas, to who? Go Dogs.
Well, and that's kind of the point. The room that they've got, I'm hoping for Aggie fans, which hold this moment in your hearts because it doesn't come around often. I don't usually hope for T and A&M for anything. But my hope for your wide receiver position, my hope for your running back position is there's just talent there that we just don't have any proof of yet. Right? Like that, we'll start to see some stuff on the field and it will translate into wins for the Aggies, because as the Aggies look good, so does the conference and so does the win that South Carolina will have over you. I digress. The tight ends are not good. The starter is ranked as a C+, and the best thing we could say about him is he's balanced. He played in 12 games last year. They threw the ball to him 7 times, and he caught 6 of them for 102 yards, no touchdowns. He transferred in from Nebraska. So he's a new guy to the squad, right? So the chemistry there, where is it with the quarterback position? Don't know. Everybody else is new either to the field. Keati Armstrong is a true freshman 4-star player, so he's not seen any collegiate snaps yet. It'll be interesting to see what he can bring to the table. 6'6", 265. And so he's got the build that you're going to want, but everybody else in that tight end room is just unproven or a transfer in. The offensive line looks pretty solid. Nothing standout. Like they're not going to be one of your premier offensive lines in the conference. You've got Trezon III at left tackle, Besantis at left guard. I won't even try the gentleman's name that's going to play center for these guys. I'm just going to call you KF. Right guard.
Or KFC.
Well, I don't
KF Center.
He probably spends time at KFC because he's on the O line, and those guys need nourishment. But a lot of 3 and 4 stars, and I've said it before, I don't have a problem with 3 stars if they're coached up well, right? Like if you're 340 pounds, as long as somebody can coach you where to push this other dude to, you're probably going to be okay. So I think their offensive line is going to be all right. They've got some good depth in that room, so that bodes well for the offense. Defensively, they just, all in all, from a roster standpoint, a 10,000-foot view, looks like a balanced, middle-of-the-pack program this year. There's nothing that really jumps off the page at any position. A lot of 3 stars that are in your starting roles at the defensive line position. You've got some guys that transferred in. Searcy, Hayes, both of those guys transferred in. Searcy from Florida. Hayes from Pitt. Hayes is a grad student. He's an edge rusher there, but he's not even listed as a probable starter right now. So it's just a lot to be proven there. In the linebacker room, again, some 3 and 4 stars. York is probably going to be your starting guy there at outside linebacker. 13 games played last year, 55 tackles, 3 sacks, and he had a pick. Scooby Williams played a big role for A&M last year, or at Florida earlier, but I believe he played at A&M last year. Played in 11 games. Had a pick. He had 38 tackles. I don't have any sacks for him last year. So just, again, not a jump off the page linebacker room, but balanced. Defensive backs, you start to see some promise. Des Ricks, a 5-star sophomore, had 13 games last year, 1 interception, only 4 tackles. So it's, again, hopefully he was a shutdown corner and they just didn't throw to his side a lot. Will Lee, 3-star senior. Okay, this guy played in 12 games last year, 10 tackles, 2 interceptions, but just Elko is still in the building process. Let's not forget that, right? They had a good year last year for a first-year coach. I think they're going to have some struggles this year. We'll get into that in a minute, but I still think that we're in the building process. Don't expect to see flashes of greatness yet from Texas A&M, but I think that there's a lot of methodical building going on here. With Elko, I think he's trying to bring in the right foundational guys, not the guys that are going to take the world by storm and make everybody turn their heads towards what A&M is doing, but more so in a respect fashion that we can't overlook A&M, and give them another year or two, and they're back up there challenging for championships and certainly playoffs at A&M, at Kyle Field.
Yeah, I've got a couple things on that I wrote down. first and foremost, this is you as you're going through the roster. This is a far cry from where they were 2 or 3 years ago. You remember 2 or 3 years ago when Jimbo Fisher had that record-breaking recruiting class? I mean, they were the I think they said they had the best recruiting class in history. And most of those guys are gone. And so you look at that and you say, wow, I guess the playing field is more even now with NIL. I don't know. But the other thing is, we talk about Elko, and I think Elko's a good coach. I think we talked about this before. Texas A&M has to stick with this guy and let him go through the challenges and, like you said, methodically building this program up, right? But does Elko is this his second year slump that we just saw Hugh Freeze have? Hugh Freeze's season last year was terrible. We talked about that. Is this his second year slump season? Is it a downward season from last year? What you think?
I don't think it'll be that dramatic. I think that it could be a slump season, and we'll get into that in a minute when we start going through the schedule and we do our individual forecasts of wins and losses. I don't think it'll be as dramatic because when it happened with Auburn last year, one week you're like, wow, Auburn's playing pretty well. The next week you're like, well, these guys might be for real. And then the week after that, you're like, what happened? How many flat tires did they have on the way to the game? I look at this roster that Elko is putting together, and this is why I think that they're going to have a down or second year slump type of season, is because the lack of experience. Again, a lot of these players are 3 and 4 stars. You've got some 5 stars on the roster, but they just don't have a wealth of experience at any position and therefore on either side of the ball. You've got 5 guys that are coming in the defensive back room, or maybe, 6 that are 4-star players. 4 of them are corners and 2 of them are safeties. You've got guys that have transferred in from other programs. Julian Humphrey, a 4-star player, transfers in from UGA, right? So you've got some solid players that are coming in, some true freshmen that are coming in that I think that he's going to be building something with. What's it going to look like on the field this year? Nothing real pretty. I don't think. I think the record is going to make it look like, golly, this wasn't a good year. But I think it will be a good year because I think that you're going to be bringing that experience in. You're probably going to see a lot of young guys actually getting some solid playing time, some good reps on the field, to where next year nobody overlooks A&M. I don't think anybody overlooks A&M, period.
No, I don't think you should.
But next year there'll be a higher level of respect. And the year after that, in my personal forecast, is where they legitimately, from opening kick, game 1, are a playoff team contender.
So you think in 2027 they're a playoff contender?
That's what I'm looking at right now. Now, listen.
Potentially, I see that.
Everybody's roster changes every year. So you never know who's going to come in and make you even better or who's going to leave and take the wind out of your sails.
Nico.
But what I'm looking at right here, hey, Nico. What I look at right here is a lot of promise for the Aggies and a lot of opportunity to give them something to scream about.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, man, before we dive into their games, Chicken, I don't know. Well, you haven't because you've been covering the depth chart. So you haven't had a chance to look at your phone. But you and I just got a group text from someone. Uncle Kenny is alive. Uncle Kenny is up and running. And so we have a breaking news right now for those that have followed us last season or have gone back and listened to the old shows and missed Uncle Kenny's write-ups. We are going to have an Uncle Kenny write-up on the next show. And look, for those that have not heard it, get ready. It is awesome.
My Uncle Kenny is one of those individuals that comes in and out both of consciousness and also in and out of my life. There are seasons where he's doing something legitimate, studying the migratory patterns of various bird life. And then there are seasons where he's just been on a binger and you can't find the guy.
He might be in a park bench somewhere. Who knows?
He might be in a park bench, slumped over behind a dumpster in some dark alley. You never can tell. Or following the latest tent revival. You never know with the guy. He's just a joy to hear from, but I look forward to the insight that he sometimes brings.
Absolutely. It's always great to hear from Uncle Kenny.
That's right.
Now, let's go over some games.
Let's dive in.
All right. We're going to skip UT San Antonio, win. Utah State, win. Notre Dame, their third game of the season at Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana. You and I have been there. I think A&M travels well, so there could be a lot of it could be a lot of khaki in that stadium.
Could be, which would contrast with all the green.
Yes, it would not be a good look.
Right.
I think this game can really determine. Well, I say that. I was going to say it can determine their season, but I don't think so, because here's the deal. Notre Dame is going to look a little different this year than they did last year. Riley Leonard's gone. They lost several people to the draft. So I don't know, because we're an SEC team, podcast. I don't know what the depth chart looks at Notre Dame. I'm sure it's pretty good. Marcus Freeman is doing a good job as coaching there. This game's a toss-up for me. I really don't know.
That if this game were played at a neutral site. Because I'm tracking with you in that, like we said, Elko is still building at A&M, because say what you want about the A&M program historically, I don't think Jimbo did them any real favors.
No.
Right? So when Elko comes into this program, to the average viewer, to the average college football fan, well, Jimbo Fisher brought in this recruiting class and that recruiting class, and Elko he's going to be just taking off game one. No, as Lee Corso used to say, not so fast, my friend. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of rebuilding. Think about an older home that has to have the foundation jacked up just to kind of shore up what's underneath. That's what's going on at A&M right now. There's a lot of shoring up of the Aggies foundation. Notre Dame, great run last year, make it all the way to the championship game, right? But as you mentioned, your starting quarterback is gone. A lot of other players gone to the NFL. But Freeman has been at Notre Dame, rebuilding the Notre Dame longer than Elko has been at A&M. This game is in South Bend. It's in South Bend at a time of year where you and I were actually there. It mirrors our trip to South Bend several years ago, just based on the time of year it is in September. So it's not a situation, good thing for A&M, where, oh, wow, the weather will be against them. No, it's still pretty pleasant that time of year up in Indiana. But it's at Notre Dame. It's at 7:30 at night. I like Notre Dame in this game. I think this is the first loss of the season for A&M.
I'm going to go with A&M.
Okay, so you've got them 3-0 going to Auburn. I've got them at 2-1.
Yep. Then they bring Auburn home. They have Auburn at home, and I think Auburn wins that game. I think Auburn's going to have a good season.
I don't disagree. So at this point in the year, I'm looking at a 2-2 A&M squad.
Yeah, I'm looking at a 3-1. And then luck will have it that you take on Mississippi State at home. That's a win.
That should be a win. That's right.
And I'm about to deliver you your second loss. Next, you got 3 straight home games. And that third home game is with Florida. And I think Billy Napier is going to have a decent year this year in Florida. And I think Florida wins that game.
I agree. I think Florida wins this game. I think that it's going to be by 2 touchdowns at least. I think that the Gators are going to look really good this year. A lot of that hangs on Lagway staying healthy.
Yes.
But I think that Florida's going to come out on top in this one.
The other thing that may actually truly start the downfall, the downward spiral for the Aggies, because next they have to go to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and take on the Fighting Pittmans. And I like what Pittman's doing there. We're big on Pittman. We love the guy for sure. I think they've got a young, good quarterback. You've said it in the past on a previous show. You believe that no one's really talking about Green, but Green will be in everybody's verbiage by the end of this season. People are going to be talking about this guy, and I am going to agree with you. I think Arkansas wins this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're 3-3 going into Arkansas, and I think you leave 3-4.
Yeah. Then you take on LSU in Baton Rouge, and sorry, not happening. I think Nussmeier is, right now, Nussmeier is one of the front runners for the Heisman Trophy. I think that's a legit thing. He has the potential of having a Joe Burrow-esque season at LSU. I think LSU just rolls over the Aggies.
There's something about Coach Kelly at LSU that I can't quite put my, like, you never know based on the way he talks. Like, okay, do you buy stock in the Bayou Bengals right now, or is this just a bunch of hot air and they're probably going to underperform? I just don't know. He's that kind of guy as a head coach, but Nussmeier is for real, and I think he's going to light the Aggies up in Baton Rouge that night. It's listed as a to be determined kick. Let's be serious. It's going to be night. It's going to be in Baton Rouge. It's going to be electric. Tickets, this game's going to be sold out. You're going to lose to LSU.
But I think they win this next game. They go, this is their third straight road game. They go to Columbia, Missouri, and take on the evil one. And I think by this point, they may try to Missouri may try to overlook the Aggies, and I think the Aggies pull out a win against Missouri.
I agree. I think that we learn a lot through adversity. And I think that the previous games, dropping to Florida, dropping to Arkansas, dropping to LSU, I think A&M is going to learn a lot about themselves. Again, we've talked about it before. Elko's a good coach.
That's right.
And the point of this season, I believe, is going to be building that experience to continue to take this program forward back to where they belong as a championship contender. I think that there are a lot of lessons learned in the previous 3 weeks, the previous 3 losses, that coming into Columbia, Missouri, I think they hand the Tigers a loss.
Yeah, and then the next game, I'm going to use one of our famous lines that we've said for many, many, many years is hold up, swole up. Next, you host the South Carolina Gamecocks, and I'm sorry, guys, I think that's a loss.
I agree. I think it will be close.
They always play close.
Well, we've kind of torched them before, but I think that this game will be close because, again, I think that this is a learning season for A&M. I think that this will be a good game.
I do too.
I don't think that you're going to look at A&M and say, well, gosh, if they were only better. I think A&M is going to play an A game in this matchup. I think that South Carolina is going to have to play their A game. Or this could be a matchup that South Carolina ends up looking back over their shoulder and going, golly, we should have beaten these guys. I don't think they will. I think that Carolina is going to win this game by a touchdown, but I think it's going to be fun to watch the whole way through. I think A&M shows us that they're a real program on the mend here. And while it will translate to a loss, I think it'll be one of those that you can say, well, it was a good loss.
Yeah, the good thing is you're going to win your next game. You take on Samford. So that's a win. And then you go last game of the season, you go to Austin, Texas, and take on that burnt orange team. And I'm going to let you go first.
Again, it's a rivalry game. It's a rivalry game that's been brought back to life by none other than Greg Sankey and the SEC.
That's right.
Thank you, Commissioner Sankey.
For sure.
For bringing that back just to college football. College football deserves this rivalry game.
College football is better because of this rivalry game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm glad that we have this one back. I'm glad that it's in the best conference on earth. That said, you got to go to Austin. Now, we've made comments before about Arch Manning. What's Texas really going to look? We know what they're supposed to look like. We know what we've forecasted them to look like. But what happens when you really put it on the field at this point in the season for 11 games. You're going into game 12 here. So what's the reality of the Longhorns with Arch Manning under center? What has A&M grown to by this point in the season? Talked about it a second ago with the South Carolina game that we think is going to end up being close and that A&M is going to start putting some things together. This could be a really good matchup. I think A&M by 3.
Wow. I don't know if there's much more to say after that, to be honest with you. I think that everybody and their mother, besides the chicken, and now the dog, would pick Texas in that game. Look, Joel, Jimmy, Mike, my guys over in Austin, the Austin area, I've got a lot of buddies over there. I just don't hate me for this, but I think A&M wins this game. I do. I think it's that rivalry that plays into it. I think there's a lot. I think Texas will be on high alert because of where they're going to be at that point in the season. This game is probably going to determine whether or not they make the SEC championship or not. It's a good possibility. And I think that pressure, Arch Manning in Austin, all that should go your way, right? I just don't think it does. I think A&M pulls out the upset and seeks a little bit revenge for coming to their house last year and taking the win. I think A&M wins the game. But I think it's close, like you said, by field goal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this too. For all the Longhorn people that are probably going to want to write into the show now and make their comments about how stupid I am, I think that Texas is a playoff school. I think that Texas is back in the mix for the playoffs again this year. I don't think that Arch Manning is going to be a bust of any sort.
Nope.
But I don't see you going undefeated either. And I see this as being a loss for the Longhorns. Again, Mike Elko is building a program at Texas A&M, and he's building one that is going to demand to be recognized. And this is how you do that. Unfortunately, you go 6-6, but win number 6 comes at the expense of your arch rival in-state, Arch Manning, Texas Longhorns going down A&M by 3 on November the 20th.
Yeah, I think there's a really good chance that Texas is 10-1 going into this game.
Yeah.
And that A&M delivers them their second conference loss. I think they lose to Georgia and Athens. I don't think they win that game, and I think that Texas A&M could actually win this game. I really do. But look, I think all in all, the Aggie season, I know we kind of gave a lot of doom and gloom on some of these games, right? Like you said earlier, on paper, it doesn't look good. But if you can look at the big picture, like you said, it should be a good season for Elko and the Texas Aggies, and I think they'll do fine. I think this is, like you said, a building. This is going to be a building season for them to catapult them into the mix in 26 or 27, especially if they go 16-team playoffs.
I believe, again, getting back to what Elko is doing, I believe that he is going to present the Screaming Faithful a feast of victories. Right now, you guys are at Costco, and he's buying the groceries, okay? You ain't there yet. He hadn't cooked nothing. But it's coming. You're going to have to get through some challenging moments, maybe some losses that aren't good losses, maybe that aren't pretty. You know, maybe Florida embarrasses you. Maybe the Fighting Pitmans make it look like you showed up to an NFL stadium instead of a college stadium. I don't know. There's going to be some rocky moments on this path. But what's cooking in the kitchen is going to be delicious. And I think that you folks are going to start, rubbing your fat tummies one day instead of having to practice yelling.
Yeah, I think that Texas game could be their Wagyu moment.
Boom.
That just
happened.
That just happened. But yeah, I think all in all, I think A&M is going to have a really good building season this year. We want, as much as you pick on the screaming Aggies and you make fun of their yelling and stuff like that, we want A&M to be relevant in the SEC. We're going to pull for every SEC's team as long as they're not playing our team. We think that it's good for the conference to have not only the Georgias and the Alabamas and the Texas winning. We want the South Carolinas. We want the Aggies. We want the Tigers, and that could be LSU or the War Eagle Tigers, either one of them. We want all of these teams winning. The Gators is better for college football if they're relevant. And so that's what we want to see out of the Aggies this year.